Welcome to Book Solve and the final As I Read video for Ultramarine, Mariette Navarro's novel. Um, this is my thoughts on the pages 93 through to the end. And let's see, we have initially a change of point of view. We have a short section from the chief mate, and we find out what the significance of the pebble is that he keeps in his pocket, and the metro ticket, which both of which the ship's captain had found when she went through his cabin. Then we run back into her stream of consciousness, and she's obviously distressed by what's happened, and the swim and this extra sailor that's now on board, and she's started to retire more to her cabin and is thinking about whether she maybe could relinquish command and her responsibilities. And she tries to have another one of those into the void experiences of passing through the walls of her cabin and through the floors of each level of the ship, and she's repeating to herself a kind of mantra of everything's fine, everything's fine. A sort of calming self-hug, I think, there. And we have a very noticeable sentence on page 100. In the last rays of the sun, the sea was hemorrhaging, as a way of describing what appears to her to be happening in the sky. There's a lot about losing blood, the sea's hemorrhaging and becoming red, and the engine's heart is pumping blood around the ship, and she contemplates that you think that you're going to make all the decisions when you're in command, but obviously that doesn't work out in real life. And suddenly there's a break in the weather, and there's rain, and a tropical rainstorm, not an unusual one, but quite warm rain, but very heavy and very sudden. And this takes her memories back to a scene 6 months ago, quite interesting little events where she's racing through slow-moving cars with a loss of confidence, and she's calling out for her father amidst screeching tyres, it says. And we wonder whether this is a childhood memory that she's running away. But of course, it's not 6 months ago. It's related to her father's dementia, that when he came back from his final voyage, where there was the lost time, he sank into a loss of vocalization, and she became more and more concerned about his mental state, and he developed a dementia, and this incident was in Toulon, and she was chasing after to her father. Where's he gone? What can have happened? And it was raining at the same time. And she's left with when she spots him, she's left with the question of, well, do I just follow him, or should I take hold of his arm and lead him back to his home? And she's unsure um, which of those actions she should take. Um, and there's a phrase: "It doesn't take much to comfort us. It doesn't take much to disturb us," which reminded me of the Tori Amos song "Little Earthquakes," which has got the lyric in that it doesn't take much to rip us into pieces. Um, yeah. Um, then we have another strange incident where there's a sailor that running on his duties to get from one side of the ship to the other trips over the 21st sailor, this blonde lad, that and almost gets tipped over the railings into the sea, and it causes him to scream. Um, and she actually, having not done her out of body experience, actually goes down to the engine room um, to find out what's going on, and it's reported to her that the problem is with the pump, the great red heart of the ship, and she sort of ponders how and talks to the ship as though it were a beast. And how can we help you when we are just parasites? She says, and she listens to the heartbeat of the ship. Uh, and this is where this is great. When you're reading, you sometimes come across a word you've not heard before, you don't know the meaning of, and you can look it up. And this one is Batacada. Never heard of it myself at all. Look it up. And it's a percussion beat, very fast percussion beat, type of samba, very popular in Brazil. So yeah, it's a new word for me to know. Um, she thinks about herself as Iphigenia, um, who was Agamemnon's daughter, who he had to sacrifice to appease the gods after he'd gone hunting and killed a deer that belonged to the gods, um, which is a story that's retold in Yorgos Lanthimos' film. I love his films, The Killing of a Sacred Deer. So we wonder at that point, is she actually going to have to sacrifice herself and die in order to pay for the sins of her father, perhaps? Don't know. Um, we have a little bit about the dark of the night, because there are no cloud cover all over, and contrasting it with the yellow light, electric lights that the mariners are using to pass their time in little comforts, like as if they were in some kind of little cabin. Um, let's see. That's that bit. She's again thinking about her father, um, and about his muteness, and how it upset her that although he was rejected by other members of the family, she was there for him because she was another seafaring person. It was in her heart, and she was rather wounded by the fact that he didn't feel that he could confide in her. But eventually, her bitterness had turned into some kind of understanding that he'd seen the face of death, and that was something that had shocked him into this silence. Another quite interesting thing of this being perhaps a silly ghost story about some sailors who see the faces of dead seamen in the ship somewhere. I can't quite remember the detail of that. Um, the the chief, not chief engineer, the chief mate, um, uses his pebble and puts it on the map that she dug a hole in with the pencil, um, and imagines that he's sort of created some kind of island that the ship could then limp towards and find safety and dock. And um, he's reassured by what he feels is a tiny act of dissonance. Um, then there's another strange episode, very cinematic one, where she goes into a small gym that they've got set up on the boat with a few weights for the sailors to use. And she goes in, she smells again. So smell is quite a big thing in this. The stale, rank air of sweat that's in there. And she leaves the light out so that it's really dark. And in her imagination, she believes that this 21st sailor, the blonde lad, is actually in the gym. That's where he's hiding out. And she starts to speak to him, um, suggesting that she will sort out the problem of his being on the ship, and that he should that perhaps that they've met before, and that perhaps um, she can she can help him out as a stowaway. Um, and she recalls at that time as well, while she's talking in the darkness, uh, about returning to her father's home at one time and encountering the male nurse who's been looking after her father outside the house when she arrives. Um, and initially she wonders why he's there, because he should have come and gone hours before. But then she understands from how pale his face is that he's got bad news to relate. And indeed and his face, I think, reminds her of the blonde lad. It's sort of mixed up then between her father's face, this blonde lad's face, and this nurse's face. And at the very end of that scene, she switches on the light, and of course, there's nobody in the room. Um, the final little bit I struggle with rather. She's then has a they get clear of the problems. They're going to be sailing into port. All the seamen are really happy that the voyage is now over, and she has an intimate time with the first mate. They sort of they come together and she allows herself to be comforted by him. And when they disembark, they talk about what they're going to do now. I'll have to get used to walking on forest paths again. You're not going home? I'm going to stay here for a while. You? The chief mate hasn't had time to ask himself the question. For the last several days, he's forgotten about the existence of dates and aeroplanes. Marie Gallant now comes into view eternally round. For the first time in my life, I have no idea, he says. And that's the closure of the book. So that's my reading of Ultramarine by Mariette Navarro. I should probably do a video now as a sort of final thoughts on the book as a whole and how I found it, and that will be I shall then move on to my next book. So thank you for listening, if you've got this far in the video. My goodness. And goodbye from Booksolve, and happy reading to you all.